So let's fly over the Lovedale TVET College campuses located in the Eastern Cape. And I'm starting in the Western Cape, where my history started in 1652 with Jan van Riebeck. And we're flying through the gorgeous Karoo, and slowly but surely the terrain will change towards a wetter summer. And we're arriving in the Cat River Chumi Valley area. And Bushmen, or the San, have been living here for 30,000 years. There were herds of wild animal roaming the plains, and around about 2,000 years ago, Khoi settlers started to arrive. They were pastoralists, and what tended to happen was quite strong antagonism between the San and the Khoi, because their herds would chase away the game. And then around about 300-400 years ago, the Xhosa also started to arrive in this area, and that increased the antagonism and also the sharing of different cultures in this area. Then eventually what happened was Afrikaner settlers and the British colonialists also arrived, making this place a melting ground for the struggles that were to happen. We're flying close over now the Chumi Valley. It's the most exquisite place. I've been here a couple of times. We used to use this as a training ground for our Rhodes University students. And this was the place where the Fourth Xhosa War happened, where the warriors gathered over here and tried to chase the British settlers out of the area, resulting in a massive war and the eventual defeat of the Xhosa. And it was on the banks of the Chumi River that this famous missionary school was set up. Now, its first principal, William Govan, I hope you recognize his name because the father of Thabo Mbeki was named after him, was a more intellectual principal. He wanted to generate a black middle class that was educated at least to the same level and on the same curriculum as the white people in the area. But after him, a guy by the name of Stewart took over, and it was with Stewart that we had this strong focus on a vocational educational centre. There was always vocational elements attached to the school, but he made it the focus. He upgraded the workshops, he improved the domestic educational curriculum for girls, he set up a far stronger agricultural curriculum. And I'll tell you what the curriculum was actually. They did things like masonry, carpentry, wagon making, blacksmithing, domestic science, cooking and sewing, nursing, basket making, beekeeping, poultry farming. So the more things change, the more things stay the same, I suppose, because if you look at the curriculum now, really they're doing art and design, they're doing farming management, primary agriculture, financial management, and you can be a management assistant. And you'll find out that all those engineering programs are located out at the Zwelitsha campus. And there are all sorts of other debates which happened at Lovedale. For example, the third principal, his name was Henderson. He felt very uncomfortable with the attempt to teach the black kids who were coming to the school in English. And he felt very strongly that primary education should happen in the vernacular so that they could become comfortable within their own language before trying to master all the other concepts. You also have this terrible struggle which happened in the 1950s where the apartheid government got hold of Lovedale College and converted it into a more racist institution, where all the arguments for working with the local community and trying to identify the knowledge and the skills the community needed was twisted into a straight racist ideology where black people's horizons had to be limited, they had to be located in their own areas, and they had to do their own skills. So you can hear that terrible twisting happening there. Now, right next to Lovedale TVET College is the University of Fort Hare, the famous University of Fort Hare that has produced many of our own black intelligentsia and leaders, and many of Africa's intelligentsia and leaders. It was a powerful place of debate and engagement with all sorts of different groups. Many of the middle class and royalty and radical families who had enough money and who had enough education or enough savviness to get their kids here arrived at this melting pot. And it's this melting pot dynamic that the apartheid government couldn't stand. And they converted Fort Hare into a tribal university with dumbed down standards, a bush place for the Xhosa people. It's now overcome that terrible heritage, just like Lovedale has, actually. So we have this renewed attempt to move forward. But you can hear by the terrible nature of that struggle that we needed a more radical kind of black consciousness take on what was going on within the social, political and educational environment of South Africa. And what I want to do now is I want to pull back to carry on that part of the story. We're going to pull back over the birthplaces of Oliver Tambo and Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu and Govan Mbeki, but also the birthplace just to your right of Chris Hani. So you have this kind of situation where you have not only the black intelligentsia or the black middle class being produced by Lovedale and by Fort Hare, but also in the thick of the struggle, a renewed radical consciousness, best articulated by Chris Hani and black consciousness. So we've moved around, we're flying over Buffalo City, and we're now following the Buffalo River. We're tracking down into King Williamstown in Zwelitsha, where Chris Hani formulated the basic strategies and struggles of how black consciousness would work. And I'm going to talk to that now. But before that, we're just going to fly over through to the King Williamstown campus. King Williamstown was the old capital of the area which the British had managed to dominate and take away from the Xhosa. And it was differently called. You can tell that it's a history of struggle over here. It's the old British Kaffraria. It was called Queen Adelaide at one stage. It was the neutral zone, the ceded territory. It's the place where the British managed to get some control. And you can see that's where some of the infrastructure and the major cities of the Eastern Cape are set up. Now, this King Williamstown campus is the biggest campus. It can take 1,000 students, and it basically offers the business studies component. It's got a nice simulated enterprise center. It's got good computer labs. You can do public management, financial management. You can do human resources management and business management and office administration. You can do finance, economics and accounting. And you've got the IT and the computer studies. I want to pull out from the King Williamstown campus so that we can get a sight of King Williamstown combined with Zwelitsha. Now, Zwelitsha is an interesting kind of township because it was built with quite good infrastructure. The houses were bigger, they were better built, there were better toilets, better sewage. And it's in this zone that Chris Hani grew up and formulated his ideas on the black consciousness struggle, which is the insight that you cannot actually rely on the whites or a foreign culture or foreign elements to articulate who you are and what you're about. And you firstly have to liberate your own mind. You have to become self-reliant. You have to stand up for yourself. And I love the picture. You can almost see two faces there split in the middle. I have that feeling when I see Zwelitsha with the two rivers running across there. And it catches for me the dynamic of the fact that you need to see that your public white identity, which has been forced on you, has to be broken. And you've got to see through that and construct your own new black identity, which builds from the inside out. It's a very powerful expression of black consciousness. And in this Zwelitsha campus, what you can do is you can do all the engineering qualifications. So you've got civil engineering, building construction, you've got engineering and related design, you've got electrical infrastructure construction, carpentry, roofing, plumbing, masonry, bricklaying, water and sanitation, motor body repair, motor mechanic, welding, like all the things actually which were at the Lovedale Mission School, which were being done in terms of that engineering skills side, are now located at Zwelitsha. What I want to do to finish it off is I actually want to fly over where Chris Hani lived. Now it's in zone 10 of Zwelitsha, and I like to think of it as one of the birthplaces of black consciousness, caught in this middle land, this land which the British had managed to dominate, take away from the Xhosa, a land which had been named the borderlands. And in this land where you have a Lovedale TVET College, which has this long history of missionary education and the attempt of the whites to give a Christian kind of Western view of how it is that black people should live and compete with white people in South Africa, you have the formulation of a distinctly black vision, a modern black vision, which articulates how we have to move forward by firstly liberating your own mind. And only once your own mind is liberated can you then start to pursue some version of multiculturalism in the world. So there we have the Lovedale TVET College, aptly named because of the long history it contains of struggles of the black people to find some kind of access to education, initially Western, initially Christian, initially vocational, the struggle with the apartheid government which twisted it all into a racist ideology, and the eventual formulation of a black consciousness identity which started to recognize that it was only through self-reliance and doing things for yourself that you could stand up, overthrow the chains, and only once you'd overthrown the chains and defeated the oppressor could you then look upwards and say, let's now have some version of multiculturalism and fairness in the world.